Jesus is in India. And he's been in India for about 4 years. He went there when he was 12, so he's about 16 or 17 years old right now. And so in all this time, he's been studying with these master teachers of the Brahmic faith. And while he's being taught, he's teaching, and it's a really neat relationship that's going on. But now he's beginning to look around and to really own what he knows about God. And he starts rocking the boat a little bit because he starts spending time with a lower caste of people. And the Brahmic priests aren't happy about this. The caste system in India is very strong. And it has to do with power, learning about power. And so there were people that were very powerful, and there were people without any power at all. Jesus couldn't see this. He saw everyone as a child of God, that everyone was good and deserving of all the love that God had for them and all the good and love that life had for them. And so, as he begins to stand forth and teach this message of God within all, and as we look within the eyes of our brothers and sisters and look deep, we can see within their heart God. Now, in the caste system, it was against the law to look into certain eyes of a different caste of people. And I think this is what hurt Jesus the most, because it was a system that created separation. And separation not only from man, but from God. And so he's invited to go to a banquet at this Indian healer's house, and his name's Udraka. And he's the most famous healer in India, and Jesus works with him and learns about energy and things like that. And so when he goes to this banquet, Udraka asks him to talk. And so he reiterates once again about the God within. The God within, and that there's only one God. And people worship God in their own way. And those people that see God as power worship a powerful God. And those that see God as a God of love worship God as love. Those who worship God as wisdom worship God as a God of wisdom. He said, people make their own God. By what they see, they create their own God. And he said, man has missed the triune aspect of God. God is power, wisdom, and love. And Jesus' gift was to, here in India, was to demonstrate and show and teach about God's love, unconditional love. It didn't matter what caste you were born into, what your life looked like. You were good, deserving, and son of God, daughter of God. This didn't make the priests happy. When you watch Jesus' life unfold, it's almost like this repeating theme, because Jesus brought the gift of truth, and the truth is uncomfortable for a lot of people. And so it starts here in India. And so they really, even some of them start plotting against him in India. And he's 16, 17 years old. And so when he leaves, some people go, wow, where does this guy get this wisdom? And some people said he's crazy. Some people said he's speaking of the devil. So there's a big mixed message and consciousness going on. But he leaves, and he goes to stay with a farmer. And that's one of those people of a lower caste. The priests were the highest class. Then the soldiers, the rulers were the next. And then the farmers. And then the Sudras, which were just the servants or the slaves, that really had no rights. They had no power. So he goes to stay with a farmer. And so this is where Ajanan comes in. Ajanan, he comes from a town called Lahore, and it's in northern India, and he comes all the way down to Benares to study in these temples with these other priests. He's heard about Jesus through the merchant caravans that travel the land. And he wants to really come and see Jesus and begin to understand and even know about this God and this kingdom that Jesus has been talking about. Okay. By merchantmen, Achan heard about the Jewish boy, about his words of wisdom, and he girded himself and journeyed from Ahor, that he might see the boy and hear him speak. The people that Jesus is staying with. The Brahminic priests did not accept the truth that Jesus brought, and they were angered much by what he said at Eudraka's feast. But they'd never seen the boy, and they desired much to hear him speak, and they invited him to be a temple guest. They didn't agree with what Jesus was teaching and telling the people. They didn't agree with him. They were angry at him. How much do you think they could receive if Jesus came to talk with them? Not much. It's like demanding, once again, that Jesus come to them and show them, teach them. And Jesus, being quite aware at the time, he's not going to go. I'm not going to go. And that angers them even more because they're important. Jesus says, I have the light for everyone. And if you seek the light, come to the light. Achan's with the priests, and he's gone, oh, I want to see Jesus. And so he sends a letter with a bunch of gifts to Jesus and says, you know, these priests, they're not as bad as they really act. And if you really come and talk with them, I think they'll agree with you and everybody will be happy. And so Jesus gets the letter and the gifts, gold and things like that. And he's, sends them back, you can't buy, how's that? You cannot buy God, you cannot buy the gift of spirit with gold, money, whatever. And once again, I'm not hiding my light from anyone. And these people are as important as y'all priests. And if you want to be with the light, you've got to come to the light. So he's really not coming into harmony with these priests. Sends everything back, and so the priests, they start this plotting against Jesus already. Achan has no part of this, so he leaves the temple at night to go see Jesus. Does anyone remember the story about Nicodemus? He goes to see Jesus in the night, and it's to begin to stand forth, is what we're all being called to do. So Nicodemus comes to Jesus in the night. And Jesus says to Nicodemus, there's no night where shines the sun. I have no secret messages to give. In light, all secrets are revealed. And that's the light, the truth, the love of God is for every man. It's not for a select special group. And that's what he's telling him, even when he comes to him. Hey, it's time to get off your high horse. Achan said, I came from far away Lahore, that I might learn about your ancient wisdom and this kingdom of the Holy One which you speak. So he's coming. He's trying to follow the light. He's traveled a long journey. He's telling Jesus, I traveled a long journey. I'm separating from this priesthood, and I'm coming to see you. But he's coming in the night. And that, like in the light or in the darkness, that means that he is open on a subconscious level to begin to be taught, but he can't stand forth in the light and receive the teachings of the Christ because of his attachment to the outer. What are my peers going to say? What are my peers going to say? Will he get kicked out of the temple? Will he be run out of town? And it's the same way like in our world, a lot of times when we begin to make a choice in our life, to maybe make a change in direction, to open up to greater, to open up to greater to God's love and wisdom, the power of God flowing through us. Sometimes we look around at our world and say, is my world going to accept this? There's something about a public pledge. When we make a public pledge, we're more apt to keep it than a pledge we make in our heart. You see, because no one knows we're pledging. But we make that public pledge and we stand forth and go, no, this is what I'm choosing to do with my life now. And you know what? Then you're going to find that people will support you that are in that level of consciousness. And the people that cannot see you moving, shifting your level of consciousness, your manifestation in life, they'll just fall away as you draw in the energies that will support you. And we all are faced with this choice. It's the continuum of our spiritual evolution. And as we begin to trust that God within, and this is what Jesus brought to the Indian people, the Brahmic people, God's within us all. And as we begin to look within for our guidance, begin to look into the eyes of others and understand that they're a unique soul and they're just working out their karma. And there's nothing wrong with working out our karma, and I think maybe that's how that whole system got set up. But then it got like over the edge in power. And Jesus is saying we've got to introduce love here. The path that they have chosen for their soul this lifetime may be hard, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't love them, we shouldn't respect them. And so this is hard. This is a whole new train of thought for Ajanin and for those priests, because their worship has been to the outer. And through that worship, they've just created a bunch of fear. And they've lost the message of God. They've lost their connection with God. So Ajanin says, where's the kingdom? Where's the king? Who are the subjects? What are its laws? And so this is just the way that they'd set up their religion, you see, seeking outer validation of their own belief system to the outer. And that's why when Jesus said, God's within. God's within, and God's everywhere present. God's within all things. This is like a major paradigm shift for Ajanim. And a lot of the words and energies that he's given to him, I'm sure he sat there and a lot of it just went like that, you know. But at least he came to the light. At least he was open to the light. And Jesus said the kingdom's not far away, but man with mortal eyes can see him not. It's within the heart. It's within the heart. To begin to go within and to really not worship at the statues and idols that are all over the country. This was another big thing that they didn't like. To go within and worship. And like all of us, when we would say metaphysical Christianity, beyond the physical, to begin to look beyond what the world's showing us to that higher level of cause. And when we move to that causal level, we begin to look at the thoughts that are creating our beliefs. And that's the journey that Jesus has taken them on. That's the journey that the Christ has taken us on. As we go within to the Christ within, the Christ is universal love. As we go there, that begins to show us our oneness, the connection with all. And we can begin to create relationships for the good of the whole. You need not seek king in earth or sea or sky. He's not there, and yet he's everywhere. He is the Christ of God, universal love. Instead of looking at the physical object that we want to define God as, i.e. limit God, to go beyond the form, to go to the formless. Definition of God would be the causeless cause. The causeless cause, the creator of all. To move into that consciousness. The gate of this dominion is not high, and he who enters in must fall on his knees. It's not wide, and none can carry carnal bundles through. And so what? The gate's not high. The gate's low. And I think one of the major teachings and demonstrations of Jesus was his humility. And as we begin to enter in through that pristine gate, humility is the first step that we can begin to take. Humility. And then as we humble ourselves, our consciousness, we will begin to let go of what we thought was important, our carnal loads, our attachment to matter. It's interesting, like when we begin to study metaphysics and spirituality, higher thought. When we were in Egypt, we were down in Luxor, that's Upper Egypt, but it's lower. And I was standing on this balcony with one of our guides. His name was Marat. And he was a very educated person. He had about 5 or 6 degrees, because he was probably from a wealthy family, so they could just keep going to school, So he had all these degrees, but what he was doing was he was a tour guide, and so he took a lot of people from Europe mainly to the tour through Egypt and everything. We somehow got hooked up with him. And so we just got there, and I think Cindy was taking a nap or something, so I was just sitting out there. So we're standing on the balcony, and there's the Nile, and here's the mountains and the tombs across, and so we just started talking about life and everything, and about metaphysics and everything, because he wasn't really a spiritual type person, but he'd just been influenced by a lot of tourists, a lot of people. So we started talking about things, and he goes, this spirituality and this understanding how powerful people are and your thoughts and everything, he says, it's like you get to the point where you can create anything you want, but then you don't really want it. So you get to the point where what's really important, it's important to know who you are. You are that part of God, that spark of light, I am. And we finally got to that. We've journeyed long enough that our focus is within, and our knowing's within who I am. And then that's good enough. And we could have anything. But that's just the trappings of matter, you see. That was maybe that golden ring that kept us going down that journey a little bit, so we got to call it good. But we understand. It's not all that anymore. And that's a shift in consciousness. That's what it's all about, shifting our level of consciousness. What are we in allegiance with? What are we aligning our hearts with? To look at it like that. So Agent asks, can I become a subject of this king? The Spirit's willing. And Jesus said, you already are a king, but you can become a subject to this king. But what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to release your allegiance to matter. You're going to have to start serving for the sake of love and not for the sake of gold. You're going to have to start looking at all men, all women, all life as God. And Jesus said no more. Just a shift in his behavior pattern. So, as Agent is sitting there, listening to the Christ, maybe getting some of it, maybe not, but these seeds are being planted within his consciousness. And that's how it works. We're being seeded all the time. That's how important it is to be awake. Because if we're asleep and getting seeded, they're going to grow and blossom and expand, and we're going to understand. But if we're awake, we can probably accelerate that process just a little bit. To get that seed planted within our hearts that we are one, God's within. We are one. We are all the sons and daughters of God. You know, the quicker that we really allow that to blossom forth in our life and then start acting like it and treating people like our brothers and sisters, and to not look at what is keeping us away from them. It's just like those people had their caste system, their beliefs, that separated them from God, that separated them from their brothers and sisters, that separated them from life. What's keeping us? What's our caste system? What beliefs do we hold about ourselves or about another that keep us from seeing that they are the beloved child of God? This is the message, the only message that Jesus keeps giving over and over and over. God's within. God's our Father. God's our Father. When he teaches people how to pray, he starts out, our Father. Our Father. Not my Father. Our Father. So he's creating that brotherhood, that oneness, that family of man, the family of man. And that's the walk that we are to walk. Achan went his way, and while he could not comprehend the truth that Jesus spoke, he saw what he had never seen before. He saw somebody speaking the truth, not just telling a story that had been told for 10,000 years. He saw somebody speaking the truth. He saw the love being made manifest before his eyes. And he'd never seen that. Never saw it. The realm of faith he never had explored, but in his heart, the seeds of faith and universal brotherhood had found good soil. Just by being in that energy, just by allowing those seeds to be appropriated within his consciousness. And this is it, look at this. But in his heart, the seeds of faith and universal brotherhood had found good soil. Had found good soil. And you know what the soil is? It's us. We're the soil. We are the soil. Are we that good soil to receive the seeds, the light seeds, the love seeds, the seeds of God? Because in good soil, they're going to grow. And they're going to be nurtured, and they're going to blossom, and they're going to bring forth fruit. We're the soil. We're the soil. And so his heart was good. His intention was good. And he was open. He may not have understood at the time what was going on. But those seeds were planted. And as he journeyed to his home, he seemed to sleep, to pass through darkest night. And when he awoke, the Son of Righteousness had arisen. He had found the King. So these seeds were planted, and this happens to us all, like when we take things in on that subconscious level. We might not be able to understand them at that time, but you know, when we take in that higher thought, that spiritual food within our consciousness, there's a thing called chemicalization that happens. We begin to, anything that's going to be contrary to that's going to come on up, and it's going to challenge us and fight us. And what happens is we'll experience that dark night of the soul. Has anyone experienced dark night of the soul? A lot of us have. You know what? We made it, didn't we? Here, we're all here. It's not the end of the world. We think it's going to be the end of the world. I can't go on. Take me out of here, God. And yet we keep walking because those seeds of love and light are within us. There is that good soil. And we are the sons and daughters of God. And our journey, all it is about relationship. Relationship with one another. Relationship with our earth. Relationship with all of life. God is in all life. Omnipresent. Omnipresent. Everywhere present. So as soon as we begin to wake up and to look for God here. I'm going to look for God here. It's just we live, our planet Earth is our mystery school, and we're to grow our spiritual consciousness. So the next time you go to the mall, how's that? That's a pretty good mystery school for planet Earth in 213. So you stand up before you walk in close your eyes, get centered. Feel your love. Yes, I ask that your spiritual eyes be open. And as you walk through the door, ask to see God. Ask to see God. And I guarantee you'll see somebody. And they'll be looking back at you with the eyes of God. Your prayers are answered. And as we begin to look for God every day, wherever we're at, we will see it. We'll see God. And then what'll happen, we might be drawn, hey, I don't know you, but let's talk for a moment. We begin to connect. Because everything is in relationship. And as we begin to open our hearts and connect heart to heart, we begin to understand how interdependent we all are. And that love is what washes away our seemingly differences. So to just give ourselves a chance to see God. I ask to see God today, wherever you're at. And I guarantee you'll see God. You'll see God. If we ask to feel God, we'll feel God. And yet, if we ask to know God, we can know God. Agenine, I think one of the powerful words that we want to look at with Agenine was teachable. Agenine was teachable. And that's all. If we can move into that, if we can all move into that space of being teachable, to being able to let go of an old belief system, an old pattern, an old identity. And God will show you who you really are. God will show you your next phase as we continue to evolve our expression, manifestation. So to be teachable. I think the lesson of Agenine is to be teachable. He left the priesthood where he was staying and came to the light. He followed the light. And then he was open enough to receive. And then he left, and those seeds were supported in his beingness, and he got that awareness. The Son of Righteousness was born anew within him. He woke up to, I am Son of God, in my heart, not my head. To be teachable, to let go of what is, will take us to what can be. The never-ending story is awesome. So life is our opportunity to not only know our unique expression, but the unique expression of one another. This church is an awesome church. Cindy and I know all of you. Maybe not as much as we'd like to, but at least we know you all and talk with you. And I would encourage you all to talk to somebody new after church. Somebody you don't know, or you maybe know them casually. Talk to them. Shake their hand or give them a hug. And get to know another manifestation of God on earth. Namaste. The Christ in me recognizes the Christ in you. Life is a gift. And later on down the journey, Jesus is going to go to Lahore and stay with Agenine and teach him some more. And I think that could be an analogy that, the Christ is ever available to us all. We don't have to have one revelation in our life. We have a revelation every day. You see? To follow the light, to follow the Christ. And the Christ is within each heart. The Christ is within each heart. And to seek our own inner light will allow us to see the light within all. So to be teachable allows us to shift. Let's go within. And as you close your eyes, we're going to close the door of the worldly way and just turn within. We're going to turn within to Spirit. And just breathe and once again feel your heart. Feel your heart center. And we're going to give ourselves permission to go within that heart energy, that energy of love and light. And just move into that beautiful sphere of love. And as you move into this love of God, the light of the Christ, just breathe and just allow for that transformation to begin. Surrendering to the transforming love of God. Being freed through that light. And just breathe and just feel yourself coming to that place of peace and calmness and love. And in this place of peace and love and light, if you have a caste system or a belief or a habit that you're ready to transcend because it's keeping you from knowing who you really are, knowing your unlimited nature, your unconditional love, your divinity. In this heart center, in this love of God, in this light of the Christ, ask now to really see it. Ask to get really clear about it. Ask to understand it. As you come into understanding, now you can let it go. And just breathe, and then as you exhale, just let it go. And just become aware of the Christ. As the Christ comes forward within your heart, look into the eyes of the Christ now. Feel the love of the Christ. And ask. Ask for guidance. Ask for your next step. Have the conversation with the Christ. And just listen. Receive. And know that as you ask, seeds are being planted within your consciousness now. Seeds of greater light and love. Feel the love of the Christ. And in this love, just send from your heart a big thank you. Thank you for always being with me. Thank you for always guiding me. And this day, I pledge to follow your guidance, to follow the light. For I know that it will lead me to greater light. So just breathe and feel your heart center, a radiant light, that light I am. Breathe and just feel it just flooding through your whole body. And just see your whole body filled with light as you sit in your chair. From the top of your head to the bottoms of your feet to your fingertips. Just see your body filled with light, that radiant light I am. And just breathe and feel your unique vibration. Know this vibration. This is who you are. This is who I am. Light. Breathe, feel, and know I am. Feel your feet on the floor, your consciousness back in this room. And when you're ready, just gently open your eyes. As we go forth this week, I am nearer than hands and feet to breathe and turn within and ask. Ask what you seek, and you shall receive. Because we're teachable, right? Yes. Dear God.